name's Dave Marks. I am an associate and information management specialist in program and project management in ARUP London, and I also have a remit as digital transformation manager for PPM London, and I am one of the co-leads of the MAPS project, which is the implementation of a method grid based platform within ARUP. So the MAPS journey, if you like, began, well, it really began several years ago, in that there are a set of requirements and what I sometimes refer to as an itch that ARUP has needed to scratch, that has been in place for really quite a long time, and there have been a number of attempts to satisfy those requirements that have only been at best partially successful in the past. And those requirements can be summed up really with the description that we succeed despite ourselves. So we feel like we do good work, we provide a good service to our clients, but it's too labour intensive to get there, and we reinvent too much of the wheel from one project to the next every time. There is a sort of standing joke within ARUP that in every ARUP office there is around the globe, there is a cupboard with full of reinvented wheels, and there is definitely a grain of truth in that. And we also felt that we weren't as good as we could be at taking innovation that was done on projects and good practice that was done effectively in silos and making it available and leveraging it for the benefit of the whole projects and program management community specifically, and the wider ARUP community in general. So that's been bubbling away in the background, and I had that. It was part of my remit as digital transformation manager for PPM London to think about addressing that. So we were on the lookout for ways to do it, and around the time of the first COVID lockdown in 2020, there was obviously a period whereby a lot of our project work paused, and we had more. Not that there was a silver lining to that situation, but we had an opportunity there to spend a bit more time actually trying to put our own house in order, and that was something we tried to grasp. And so there were a number of kind of discovery events and workshops and so on to really try and hone that itch that I'd referred to earlier down into a solid set of requirements. And around that time, that was when we first came across method grid. So some colleagues of ours in buildings engineering have been in touch with Dom, and they got in touch with me and basically said, you need to have a look at this. And when I did, and I had that first call with Dom, I think it was when he sort of took me through it, and he first showed me how the grid looks and what it means to open up an element and what an element contains and so on. And that was the sort of road to Damascus moment, if you like, where I realized, here finally is a system that really allows us to do what we want to do. It's intuitive, it's easy on the eye, it's going to integrate well with our existing systems and be part of our ecosystem, rather than a walled garden that wants you to do everything within it. And I think crucially, it combined the delivery of knowledge to the person that needs it at the time at which they need it, with the management of the active management of that project as it's going on. And that was the sort of that was the sweet spot that we really needed. So out of that, we obviously entered into a sort of a period of essentially trying to mobilize this as a project, and we did we were clear from the outset that this had to be done as a strategic project within ARUP. It's a knowledge project that was there waiting to happen. It just needed the right software enabler, and we had to eventually got all our sort of ducks in a row in terms of senior buy-in and funding, etc. And that meant that we actually kicked off with MetaGrid in April 2021, I believe, and it was from that moment forward, that's when we actually sort of progressed with the journey, and by far the bulk of the project has been actually sort of getting together. That, as I say, it's a knowledge project, so getting together all that great knowledge and expertise and collateral that we knew existed within ARUP and bringing it into one place, and also as part of that process, taking the opportunity to codify what we wanted to be codified and the parts that we want to be consistent and transportable, but still walk that fine line between consistency and yet not losing what made us unique as ARUP or what makes us different as ARUP, and still allowing that room for flexibility and innovation on top of that sort of 60% of the base that's transportable from one project to the next. And that was we were very clear from the outset that that's what we wanted to do, and that's what's been built into Maps as a product. And so we've eventually ended up now a couple of years down the line where we have an incredibly rich flexible digital playbook, so a common jumping off point for our projects that allows us to leverage the benefit of everything that has gone before, but is still flexible enough that it can be made to represent actually what's happening on individual projects, and that grid can be right sized for any given client engagement. And crucially for us, it also contains the mechanism for allowing us to complete that continuous improvement loop, so we can use the tool to flag up when people are doing something new, when people are doing something interesting, when people have outstripped the guidance in the grid, and that can be used to iterate the next version of Maps. And the whole idea is that it's this continuously evolving, developing, changing method that is never finished. And that's where we are now. So we're at the point where we have begun to roll it out in earnest to our advisory services cohort, initially in the UK, and then moving onto our colleagues around the globe over the course of the next year. So in terms of the working with MetaGrid and the implementation process, it was clear from very early on that they had a very good and developed idea of how to embed this within an organization, and what was reassuring from the start was that they absolutely understood that, again, MetaGrid is there as an enabler for a capability uplift. It's a change program within your organization, and the way they set up and onboarded and got the project off to a solid start was instrumental in putting that in place. Over the course of the project, we've lent on their previous expertise in putting MetaGrid in place in other client organizations, and also there's a great deal of expertise and experience within the team in terms of project management in general, which we've been able to lean on and leverage, and they've become very really sort of trusted partners in that respect. We were not, as some of their clients might be, we weren't looking to them to provide us with necessarily a capability. We didn't need them to teach us about project management. but knowing that they were trusted advisors and that they could be taken seriously really helped sell the whole idea within ARUP, and also being able to lean on them as resources has been really valuable for us, because as with any of these projects, it can be difficult to get on its feet and to resource internally, because naturally the bias is always towards kind of fee winning and outside facing work in ARUP, as it would be in any similar organisation. So being able to have a cohort there provided by MethodGrid that we could lean on for delivery of the project was incredibly valuable, and we wouldn't have been able to do it without them. And just on the point of working with the team, we've over the course of the project developed incredibly strong and really valuable relationships with all of the team. They've been a joy to work with throughout, and I genuinely couldn't recommend them highly enough. And if it were in my power, I would hire all of them. So, in terms of lessons learned, obviously there are a great number of those over the course of a project like MAPS. I think one of them is what I touched on before, which is you've got to treat it, and it's got to be recognised as a strategic priority and a strategic project within your organisation, regardless of size and scale, really. And it has to be resourced and funded and so on that basis. And I think in terms of content production, it took us a while so literally putting the expertise and the intellectual property into the playbook or the grid or whatever it is that you're producing in MethodGrid. I think it took us a while to settle on a really good method of turning that around quickly and producing that information quickly. Now, we had quite a big job on our hands because there was very little standardization within our organization. Other organizations might find it less, there might be less friction for them. But again, MethodGrid were really good at working proactively with us to get to a model that worked really well, which was getting to a first draft that could be assured by a subject matter expert in a very short amount of time. And actually, what's been really interesting over the course of the time that we've been engaged with it is seeing how the AI tool can enable that process in a much less person-hour intensive way. So I think if we had our time again, we would perhaps pay more attention to that and lean into that.